Hey guys, hey everyone. I'll wait 1 more minute, see if people join. If you want to add items to the agenda, I've just linked it in the chat. All right. I see that my network is not that great, but I hope you guys can hear me well.
Yep.
Cool. Then I see that we have most people here. So we'll start. Welcome to All Devs 32. Hope you guys had past, a good weeks since last call. And I also hope we'll had great All Devs today. I will share the notes in the chat now. Can we have voluntary note takers? Anyone to take notes? Sounds good, Olivier. Then, if we don't have, I will have to pick one of you guys or two. Please pardon me if I pick you. Peter, can you do that? Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Then, Chad, can you take notes?
Sure, I can take notes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Jorge, can you take notes this time?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for doing that. Then, do we have anyone new today on the call? If you're new, please take a minute to introduce yourself. All right. Then, if we're no one new and we have two wonderful note takers, we can start with the updates. And we'll start with Aragon one, as always. I don't know if right, Jorge, you want to chime in?
Jorge, maybe better, since I've been on vacation for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, we released 0.8.1, which was mainly like a maintenance release with some small bug fixes for the Aragon client. Last week, I think the entire front end team, the entire client team was on vacation, so not a long one on that side. And for right before DEF CON, there will be the 0.8.2 release with several things that are needed for some of the launches that are coming. I don't know if you want to go deeper on this, but
Yeah, I think we can leave it as a talking point to gather exactly what we need to do for the next release.
Sweet. Yeah, and on the network side, um, since last call, we published kind of this the planning for the different launch stages for the network. The first one being the deployment of the Aragon core and the launch of ANJ, which will use Aragon fundraising for basically staking ANT and getting ANJ back. So yeah, the development of the core is advancing quite well. We're now already talking to auditors, and we'll start audits right after DevCon. It may be delayed by a week, so we are now targeting to start the audits the week of the 21st, and we will be ending before mid November. That will be like an initial audit with an individual security professional, and then we may do another one. The first arrangement, we will have reports on a week-by-week basis. So at that point, we will decide whether we think that another audit will be necessary or not. In terms of implementation, we've been working on adding like some of the last features that we needed to add. Like almost everything's close, and now we're thinking about the quote-unquote upgradability mechanism, or at least like a recovery mechanism. So once the core is live, that we have like some time in which if something goes bad, we can gracefully shut it down. So yeah, that's the only thing that in terms of research, it's really going on now, but this should be implemented and frozen this week. And we will be freezing implementation either next week or the week after. So yeah, everything's on schedule for launching before like phase one before the end of the year. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jorge. Brett, hope you had nice vacations as well, and nice to see you here. Yeah, and then we can move on and have Otark updating us. I was taking notes during Jorge's update. I don't know if Jorge, you can take notes again. But I mean, come back to notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Otark.
Yeah, I think Oliver was asking if he can go now.
Oh yeah, of course. Go ahead. I mean, I think if that's not a problem for Otark, but I think it's
matter
okay.
us.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Olivier, please go ahead.
I'm really sorry, guys. Just that I have last-minute calls with the diligence guy for the audit. Yeah, actually, it will be super quick. Was on vacation too, so just a quick catch up. Basically, fundraising front end is almost done. We've integrated pre-sale. We've updated the background script. Everything's working now. So I'm gonna take the week to basically review everything, try to test all the use case, because it's like kind of a complex state with ton of possible different screen depending on the state. So I'm just gonna check that everything's working well, but it should be okay. So the last step is to wait for the audit feedback, and that's where there is a glitch because there's been some kind of a miscommunication issue there. Actually, so Louis asked them to have the audit started last week, but they forgot to put it in their calendar, kind of. So Louis take care of the situation, and they are going to spawn an emergency team. So they are basically doing the audit right now. But it's going to be half of an audit, like they're just going to review the pre-sale integration template, but they wanted to last look at the overall like updates we made on the batching things in the meanwhile, and they're not going to have time to do so. So I've been discussing it with Brett today. We think the best strategy is basically to just wait this semi-audit, kind of, which should arrive this week, push to Rinkaby. Then if people want to use it on mainnet, they can directly reach us, and we can check with them on a personal basis. but wait until we have the real final report, which is going to be postponed a little because of this mismatch to actually deploy and publicize the mainnet deployment. Because this way, even if people want to deploy on mainnet, they can. But we're just going to have a couple of organizations. So if there is an issue, we can directly check with them to upgrade the contract. So yeah, that was the strategy which was discussed with Brett this morning. So we should have Rinkeby release with everything integrated before DEF CON next week. And then, well, let's wait the final audit once the guy from diligence have found a way. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, really sorry for the audit miscommunication. As Olivier said, we had a problem with booking the audit with consensus, partly our fault, partly theirs. And we've done everything that we could to make up for that and book an emergency audit. Now, like as the time is short, yeah, Olivier and Brett have to work on best solution given the constraints that we have. We take responsibility for that happening at the AA, and that's the security process. That is not perfect yet, and hope that you guys are going to be able to implement pretty well, even though like the situation is not perfect. So good luck with that, Olivier, and with the audit.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Don't worry.
Okay, so if that's it from Aragon Black, Olivier.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks a lot, everyone, for basically giving me your turn. Sorry about that.
I think it's cool. Cool. Then maybe Arthur and Yada, Otark, you guys can chime in now.
All right, sounds good. So over the past 2 weeks, we've finished the local identity provider integration, which is currently in the internal review phase. We have one follow-up comment left from the auditors that we're resolving today based on the last round of changes that they passed to us, but it's a pretty small one just related to auth. So that should be wrapped. We developed the front end for the onboarding for the client and got that PR in. We're doing some final touches on the template contracts, but those are mostly set. We finished the design system upgrades for allocations and rewards. So again, the design system upgrades are pretty much wrapped for the release. We made some small changes to the CLI for our needs, and we move forward to making sure that all branches and all people on the team are using the most current CLI version. Thanks again to Mesh for helping us with a couple of the features that we needed there. We did a first draft of the documentation for all the apps for our release, wrote up step-by-step user test scripts for our bounty program to get some bug feedback, polish the RAD spec for the contracts, and then after I give an update on the next 2 weeks, I'll pass it off to Owl for more information on profiles. For the next 2 weeks, our focus is wrapping up the Web3 integrations, which are mostly done. Everything's started there. We just have like 2 apps left that we need to find, well, 2 or 3 that we have to finalize there. And then launching to Rinkeby, which we expect to happen sometime early to midweek. We're going to continue polishing the docs and consuming the feedback from user test scripts and building out the user test scripts. We need to prepare app assets, including like screenshots and polishing the manifests. And then mostly we'll just be focused on testing and fine tuning based on feedback we get, and then obviously DevCon and the offsite. That's it from us. I'll pass it off to Owl for more information on storage and profiles.
Yeah. Hey, my internet's a little crappy, so I'm watching the chat in case I cut out. Just let me know. Yeah, so I guess there's kind of like 3 things going on in parallel. There's storage work on the client that's happening, and there's an open PR for just getting that started, which basically allows the client to have like a data store that it can set and get data from in tandem with a storage smart contract and an IPFS node. There was a failing test, which I know why it's failing now. I just looked, so I'll fix that, and whenever people get around to reviewing it, that would be great. The other side of storage is on the server side, where we're building a Ethereum event-based pinning server. The bulk of that work is ready to like deploy and get testing. So I'd be interested in hearing anyone's ideas, or if there's like some immediate use cases that need event-based pinning. If people want to test that out or try it right now, we can start smart contracts on Rinkeby or just a Ganache local chain. So yeah, I can follow up with individuals on that too, with how we can integrate this stuff more natively into Aragon. So that's exciting. And then yeah, lastly is profiles, and it is a proposed topic at the end, so I'll just keep it short for now. I guess I'm wondering what the strategy is for how we want to implement it. Right now, it kind of feels like we're just trying to keep up with all the things that are changing within it, right? So like 3box will update things, and we keep maintaining that, which is I think pretty stable now. And then the new Aragon client changes. It's now compatible with the new UI and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess let's circle back on different strategies that we can take for integrating that at the end.
Cool. Thanks, John. Any questions related to this? All right. If that's not the case, do we have Mesh in the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool.
Hi. Okay. Hi, guys.
Hey, Gabby.
Yeah. These last 2 weeks, we've been mostly doing a lot of dev support. We also released a new version of the CLI that include the fix for having array to the to pass array argument to the templates. So you are now able to create with DAO new and Aragon Run using the new templates format. We also fixed an intermittent issue we have with the wrapper that so we now support the last version of the beta wrapper. And we also include a feature that was dev for having linked deployed libraries contracts. And we finally defined what we think is the next version of the Aragon CLI and how it looks like. And I include this topic for a brief discussion to have a bit of feedback. And for the next 2 weeks, we plan to go to DevCon and finish a work in progress that will include parameters, permission with parameter for the ACL from the Aragon CLI. We also we will be working on a request for founding proposal for Nest, and our main focus on that proposal is having this new power user being the center of what we think that should be a change in how the Aragon CLI is delivered for not only for dev but also for users that we want to work in create DAO models. So we will be having this proposal to have documentation for these new users and also the separation of the CLI in this user and dev CLI. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Anyone wants to add on top of what Gabby said? Or question something? All right. Then I'll do a quick update from the AA. In the past 2 weeks, we've been focusing on hiring and finding the right candidate for an ops and hybrid role at the association. If you have anyone to recommend, please feel free to do so. We also have been slowly starting the process of launching the Nest DAO. This is a work in progress, and so we'll keep on coordinating that in the coming days and weeks. I'll also be at DevCon, and I'm really looking forward to meeting with you all. Yeah, we've been coordinating for security audits for fundraising and trying to solve the issue that came up. Again, like really sorry this happened, and also try to work with Autark to book a final audit for Open Enterprise, which sounds great. And yeah, and apart from that, some work on the wiki, trying to document a bit more about the ecosystem, the different grants programs and stuff, so we can, so people can have more visibility and understanding about what we're doing and where they can start contributing and all that. And also, I don't know if you've seen, but obviously there has been some very interesting conversations on the forum. If you haven't seen them, I highly invite you to go there and have a read. And so we've been doing a significant bit of coordination and I mean discussing these different topics, and are working on maybe giving some feedback on what the conversation that were brought up. And that's it for on our side. So let's move to the discussions for the week. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 topics for today. I don't know if we want to reprioritize before we start, or if then any emergency, but if anyone, I don't know, anyone wants to start with a specific topic?
Louis, why don't we start with the ones that are super fast? And those to me are like maybe the bottom 3, and then maybe we should do the other 2 in that order.
Got it. Let's do. I mean, I will do as Brett suggests if no one has an objection.
Sure.
All right, let's go. So let's start with fundraising really strategy. So that's I don't know who came up with the topic, but maybe Brett, you can tell a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think Oliver had already pretty much summarized the release strategy as more of just an update on Aragon Block side.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically just the pre-release strategy, saying that before the audits are done, we don't feel comfortable making it very easy to do from the front end to create a fundraising organization, and then just having it ready on Rinkeby so we can demo it and show it to people.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot. Then second one, Open Enterprise release requirements. I think that's a topic brought up by Autark.
This is actually brought up by me as well, but it's
sorry. Okay, sounds good.
Autark, but it's just hopefully it's quick to sync up over exactly what needs to get done, and when the release is planned, just so we can kind of have some sort of idea to commit to for the release before DevCon.
Yes. So the top priority stuff from our perspective is the front end event triggers and the onboarding front end. After that, the next highest priority is the address book identity provider. And then from there, it's basically everything else, pending PRs that we have, like the forwarding stuff, and then changes we'd like to make for IPFS RadSpec helper. But I think that just looking at the top priority stuff, which is like basically the first two sort of chunks, the front end triggers and the onboarding front end, and then the address book identity provider is probably the easiest, because I think that for this release, it's probably a bit of a stretch to pull anything other than those three things in. In terms of the front end event triggers, if you want to have a meeting and sync on the changes in architecture that you envision, for those, we can definitely try and make those changes to pull some of the weight off of your end for getting that stuff merged in so that you can just review it. In terms of the onboarding front end, I really think that the only thing that we need from your end is review, and then we'll make changes as needed. I don't see a lot of complexity around coordinating the review there. And then I guess we can figure out the strategy for address book identity provider once an initial review is through. Does that sound realistic before we go into timeline?
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yep.
Cool. And then for timeline, we'd really like to be, like we said, we're trying to push at least a Rank B deploy so that we can get this stuff tested like early to midweek. And then I think we'd like to be in a situation where we're basically ready to pull the button to release to mainnet like Friday, potentially Monday. Obviously, we might, go a little bit late on that, but we'd like to avoid a situation where we're doing like a ton of last minute stuff at DevCon. But we understand that might happen, but that's kind of our timeline. But again, we're flexible.
Yeah, like I would say the 11th is like our worst case scenario, but we're targeting for, Monday, Friday, because a lot of people are going to be on planes like Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. And then, yeah, I definitely want to have an opinion on, because you said for fundraising, you're not going to include the template in the front end right away. And I'm just wondering if you have any opinions on the open enterprise one. I guess that's also the thing that's on the border of when the auditors will be done auditing the contract, and their estimate was like the 8th or the 9th. So I guess that's dependent on when it actually would get merged into the client. And I don't know if you guys want to review that as well.
Another thing to note, though, is the tension around including fundraising based on having the core contracts audited or based around having the template audited?
Yeah, I can provide some clarity there. I think we should be fine just to release the open enterprise template on both environments. The main thing with fundraising has been the last stretch. They've made a couple of changes to how the fundraising app actually works from the get-go, and those need to get audited. And that's really the critical thing. The templates are important, but like not having that functionality fully audited is just much more scary than a couple of permissions that might not be optimal. But yeah, I think we should be good. Are you then saying that you deploy the template before the audit is finalized, or are you waiting basically for that audit to come through?
We already submitted the PR for the front end of the template. It's just not like fully integrated with the contract, but it was very similar to the voting or the traditional like company one. We just add another screen for dot voting that just has like a little bit of differences. And then the other question I have is right now we included it so it's like 4th or something, like it's like after. So it's like you don't really see it unless you hit the arrow on the carousel. And I'm wondering if we want a different positioning so you don't have to hit the arrow to see it, and like what we would move around. So that's one thing that maybe we can figure out.
Yeah, that's something we can definitely discuss. I would not be opposed to having like the new ones be closer to the front, just so people see them and it's a lot more obvious. Yeah, it's better to put these new ones and like maybe make a different border or something like that as we introduce them, so people want to click on them. But okay, so I'm wondering about the contracts, not so much about the front end, but are the contracts then are you basically waiting for those the template contracts to be, or one contract to be audited and finalized on the 8th and 9th before you release and do all the comms, or are you planning to do that early in the week before the audit is finished?
The cons?
Like the communications, like posts and whatnot.
Yeah, so there was also some discussion around how much communication we would do depending upon the address book identity provider going in, because then we might be like, oh, we're launched, but there's this address book and you can't use it. So like the worst case scenario was during DevCon, it's like everything's on mainnet and we do like a soft community launch where we're like sharing it on the forum, you know, people that might understand the apps already, they'll be like, okay, like this is going to come soon. And then once we know like everything's fully there, then we do the bigger launch. Because yeah, I mean, I'd like us to get like the UX as tight as possible. So if that means, you know, going through a few like, you know, PR cycles with the SDK work the next few weeks, maybe we can do like a bigger comms thing like end of October, once we have that there. So from a product perspective, that's what I would prefer, for not us to just like, you know, because we've been doing a lot of this work, to see what we can to kind of bring that to the finish line for yeah, our bigger comms stuff.
Okay, so then it sounds like there's not a huge, yeah, it's basically just release when possible, and then it's not like there's a lot of additional kind of pressure put on from the communication side for the next week.
You mean from like having Aragon.org like release things in the blog or that kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to John much about that. Ola was gonna start writing stuff this week. She was on PTO the last week. So yeah, we can talk more and figure that out. But whenever I talked to Luis about things a few weeks ago and the concerns around the address book, and I mentioned like, you know, preferring to do a soft launch until we have everything, and he said that that sounded fine to him. So yeah, people, at least like there was that buy-in that soft launch was acceptable from that perspective.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm just basically trying to figure out when we should try and get the client release then. At the very least, nightly will work with the on Rinkeby and on mainnet as well. We have nightlies on both for the new apps, so you can try and make sure that they work. But yeah, it's just when we're actually going to deploy the client. But it looks like earlier in the week would be much better than.
Yeah, in terms of the Rinkeby release, I don't even think we necessarily need anything merged in to handle that.
Yeah, whenever I was talking to Luis about that, he was saying if we want to just, for our Rinkeby, just to do it on like Autark XYZ, because we're just doing it with like some of the community members for testing, like that seemed okay to him. But if it is available on like rinkeby.aragon.org, like, you know, we would definitely prefer to do that for our bounty program. But it's not, I guess it's up to you if you want to prioritize that or not, because we'll just go with our fallback if not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the idea and the priority is to support the apps properly on aragon.org. And so we should try to publish then earlier in the week. So we just have everything on mainnet or on rinkeby.aragon.org.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Cool. Any more questions related to that? Are you guys? Do you guys want to set a date to coordinate or whatever?
No, I think it's clear from the conversation, Louis.
Got it. All right. Cool. Then we can hop on the next topic, which is the DevCon dinner. I don't know who put that there.
Yeah, I added this, but since we're not doing great on time, I mean, we can talk about it offline. But since like a bunch of people will be at DevCon, it would be good to coordinate something. Like maybe not as crazy as like Berlin Blockchain Week activities, but yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. I don't know, like, yeah. For people who are there, like, if you're interested, I can help coordinate that too. I think that's a great idea, Jorge. So what we can do is like, yeah, if you're interested, please ping me or Jorge, and we'll sort that out. We'll sort that out offline. Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect.
All right, cool. And so let's come back to the first two topics. We have a strategy for integrating Aragon profile into the client. I think this one was brought up by John.
Yes. Are we talking about this one now?
I guess so, yeah.
Cool. By the way, my internet is still shaky. I'm calling in, but I've just been getting like hung up on by Jitsi. So if I drop, my computer's still up and running. Anyways, so I guess the quickest way to cover this is for me to just give what I think would be best, but it's like strong opinion, loosely held type thing. So I'm interested to hear what other people think about this type of strategy. So I think that the profiles are at a pretty good place to merge in like a very soft kind of like not public launch way into the client, almost like an Easter egg. Right now, the client, there's a component in the client called the account module, which is that top right sort of module in the client. And when you click on that, it will take you to your profile. So that's pretty much the only entryway besides like manually navigating through the URL bar to a specific profile. And of course, there are like a lot of other gateways into an Aragon profile that we could start to implement, right? Like in the address popover component, we could add a go to my profile. We could add, one of the conversations that we had been talking about, which is a little more difficult to do in a good like non-naive implementation, is to have 3box be in like a viable identity provider through Aragon JS, which would be really cool, so that we could resolve addresses to 3box names and avatars. But yeah, I guess like, and then there's also the question of design. My opinion, like, so Patty produced some really nice looking designs with the new Aragon design system. And to take what we have now and refactor them into the new designs, I'm not totally sure how long that would take, but it seems like it would be really beneficial to get at least some users using what we currently have to find out what's the next best uses of our resources. Because a lot of the time that, like, we spent a lot of time getting it here, and it's almost like to keep stalling it out and keep using intuition to guess what the users want and wait to implement it and actually get real feedback. Seems like it might, like, there's probably better ways to use our resources. So yeah, what do people think? Like, if we put this PR in, we it's bug tested and stuff like that. Are people cool with that, or do we want to do this sort of like complete integration with, resolving identities, getting the new design up, or somewhere in the middle? And could people hear me during that? I was kind of scared. I was laboring without internet.
I lean towards getting it out there. Like if you look at like mollicdao.com, it's just like so like whatever. They just like push things. And I'm like, it's like you don't need to become have some perfect profile thing for something to be there and to get like users excited about. The other thing, as far as Patty's designs go, they didn't think through a lot of the no data use cases, which our designs have. And that was like one of the most complicated I guess one of the complicated aspects of what we're doing, or what we tried to implement. So that process might take some churn. I think that the non-tab system that we designed, it's simpler for now, because I think the tab system also assumes that people are going to add education or they're going to add work history, which they just very well may not. So her designs had tabs, and this is just kind of like more of like a one-page profile. Then we can see what fields people do add data for. So yeah, I think there just might be some smaller tweaks that we should consider without completely changing like the architecture of the page. And yeah, that's my opinion as far as like the design goes. If we can do more of like a quicker pass, so there's like more of like if we want to do like a 1 or 2 week cycle on polishing the design, as opposed to doing something that's like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I think I made it clear that I'm on that wavelength as well. I also, this could just be me having complete bias, like fulfilling biases, that I feel like having an Easter egg in the client, where we don't actually say anything, but if people figure it out, it could be kind of an interesting look. Maybe, I don't know. That's just a side effect of this type of rollout strategy that isn't very loud. But yeah, so I mean, I guess a better question is, does anyone feel really strongly for or against this type of strategy, or are people feeling mainly indifferent? I mean, profiles is pretty low risk. There's not any smart contracts. There's no way people can lose their money. I don't think people can lose their private keys. Like there should be no like security things to consider. It would just be sort of, I guess the worst case scenario is a little bug that we didn't catch too soon, but we've been trying really hard to test, and or a little confusion on behalf of the user. And I think it's important that we get that information soon. And we have been doing small amounts of usability testing just internally, which is not all that accurate information, but it's better than nothing. So yeah, I'm wondering if anyone is feeling like super strongly in any direction.
I think my particular bias on this is to think about it in two ways. One is to not be hung up on sunk cost. And that's not to say that it is an improvement to have this, and I think it will be, but having it just left as an Easter egg provides very little compared to the maintainability cost going into the future, with the way that it's been built and various aspects. It just gets difficult, let's say, and maybe that's good, because then we can remove it easily and we can reshape it later. And yeah, I mean, if you just wanted to leave it out there, that might be a good strategy actually for that. Just so it's like nobody knows how to use it, but the small people who do find it interesting, and it's a super low risk thing that we can keep in. But I wouldn't, if we're going to do that, I wouldn't provide a lot more resources going into this. The other part is, I think the local identities, or not really the local identities, but the identity resolution is a lot more important in my eyes than seeing the profile in the app itself, because you can just go on 3box and see the profile, and it's not a huge thing for us to just include it in the client. Like there's I think very little to gain from integrating it that way. And so I'm also inclined that way to kind of punt off on doing more work on integrating it fully and put a lot more effort towards the actual resolution.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think also, like, I guess one thing that's been happening is if we just leave like the implementation kind of sitting and not pushed into the client, then we have to keep up with maintaining not only like the profile itself, but also the implementation and fixing merge conflicts and stuff like that, which, you know, for me, it's kind of like work that doesn't have to be work if we don't want it to be. Either we like decide to do it now or we wait until everything's done. So I completely agree. Like, I don't think either like spend the resources to get it to a point where you want, or just merge it as fast as possible. That's kind of where I stand on that. And then on the address resolution, I also completely agree. I think that's just a different area of code altogether. So I see these as pretty like mutually exclusive, apart from the user experience, making them very closely tied together. But in terms of implementation, we've like budgeted time for that post DevCon. And so we can follow up more specifically on how to achieve that. I think, you know, in a smaller group, not on this call. This was really just like, if we submit a PR, are people like from A1, do you all want to merge this, you know, or do you want to wait? And I guess maybe think about it some more too. It's not like we're rushing, but I think just having a basic understanding and being on the same page would be nice. So yeah, maybe I'll follow up with people individually after this call so we don't stretch this out. But yeah, that's about it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in on this last point here, and I think the problem so far that we faced with profiles is that we haven't had a lot of good integrated conversation over how the product should look, and this was much to the woes of us over Q2. But hopefully, with more structured conversations around this with the product working group and etc., we can avoid situations like this. Like at this point in time, I am much more on the side of no and saying like we can integrate. Not integrating is a better choice if it's going to be left as an Easter egg, just so we all save work and etc. And then figure out a proper way to find the appetite and find time to do it properly.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I think that mindset makes a lot of sense. I just like to, you know, bring up both sides of it, because like at the same time, we can definitely spend time making it look really, really nice. My thing is like, do we know what features the users even want from this who are using it? And are we missing something that's more important that the designs don't have? Just in general, like my experience with waiting to put something out because the designs aren't there hasn't like given me the most information, or like the most important information, rather than like just protecting a really nice design, which is also very important, especially given like the latest release and how much time was spent there as well. So yeah, I think there's like pros and cons to both strategies, and I'm down to brainstorm and consider both. And if the decision is like, hey, you know what, we wanna wait until this is redesigned, that's totally cool too. Like no hard feelings or like at all. Yeah. So, but I think keeping an open mind to just getting real feedback, or maybe there's another mechanism to doing that rather than integrating it somehow. That would be cool, because I'd like to hear what people think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've hit the what is the analogy? The nail on the head, is it? And that's with
Yeah.
feedback. Yeah, I think that the thing for me really as well with this is we don't know exactly, I think, what we wanted from profiles. And there was never a clear vision of like, okay, this is what we have and we're going to test this. And because of that, we've kind of gone through this roundabout way of getting to here. And now we don't really have a venue for feedback either. But if we have time to do feedback and people say, okay, no, this is really useful and I really want this, then it's a clear indication that, yeah, we should obviously spend more time and get this inside right away. But that takes time talking to users and figuring out what they want and us having a clear vision for where this is going, rather than just someone doing it and dropping it in.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's definitely clear. We would, yeah, in the Easter egg way, I think paired with well thought out user interview scripts and research to understand what problems, if any, this is solving would need to happen in order to get any meaningful insights. So yeah, that I guess I should have mentioned that, but that was something I implied, or I thought I meant to imply, but clearly didn't. But good point, yeah.
All right. We're a bit late on time. We have one topic left. I don't know if this one is going to be to take a lot of time. I don't know if you guys are okay with the conversation, Brett and John, where it ended.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Then is it Gabby? Did you bring the last topic? Do you want to quickly go over it?
Yeah, it was most to have feedback before we start writing our for founding, and also to know if you think what you think about this division of having the users CLI and dev CLI, like an extension of the user CLI to, yeah, because we have this feeling that right now in Aragon we are aiming only to the dev user, but we are like missing the whole picture of this other user that is like this power user that will want to implement DAOs and model new governance structures with the tools that we are building. So yeah, our idea is to have more focus on that as well. But yeah, it was mostly to have feedback. But of course, if we are just 1 hour almost, so if you want to comment in the document, that's also great feedback. So
Have we linked the document, Gabby?
yeah, I think I link it I link it again in the chat.
So I've just linked the document. It's in the agenda as well.
Okay, thank you.
Let's take 10 seconds to go through it and see if we have questions that we want to address now, and otherwise we'll discuss offline.
Yeah, of course the document is a bit long, but the idea mostly is this division of users and devs, but yeah.
Does anyone want to comment on the document, or do we need more time to check that offline and
Yeah, that will probably be the best. But
I mean, is there any specific description that Gabby you want to, or any specific point that you want to make so people can understand everything?
no, it's mostly having feedback about what you like to see in this new version, and also if it makes sense what we've been thinking of this division. But yeah, that's it mostly.
Got it. So maybe we can read the document and talk a bit about a bit more about it offline, and provide feedback to the mesh team, and we can also have it as a topic discussed on next all devs. I'll make sure can discuss more about it next in 2 weeks. Anyone wants to come make a quick comment before we leave?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the the document, and it sounds like we would just be able to have everything under the same CLI, Gabby, which sounds really good. So I'm not quite sure where the conversation is to go. Because if we just package these all as like mini applications inside the Aragon CLI, then there's not really a point in splitting up into like 2 different CLIs or etc. Right?
Yeah, that's right. It's not like I expressed bad in the way that it's not like a splitting in, but but it's more like we're gonna have that these 2 type of user that probably one we will deliver the CLI like basic version for all the in the first installation, but eventually the devs will install more extensions and work with a more complex CLI in a sense. But yeah, I believe the documentation for for the user is not gonna be the same for the developers. So
oh, interesting. Maybe. So this is all based on the extensions where we would have like you would use Aragon ext install to get like app dev and other parts.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I see. Yeah, it might be useful just to group them as like, instead of just listing each, well, I guess we could also list each app by itself or each extension, but I really only see the difference between the user and or like, let's say the power user and the developer.
Yeah.
The developer is likely going to need some of the power user tooling anyway. But the power user probably doesn't care, and so he wouldn't install those bits. So I guess what I'm saying is I see them as like 2 scopes. It's like you can choose to install all of the power user stuff, and then maybe the experience is slightly different, or you can choose to like do the dev mode.
Yeah. Okay. We will keep thinking about that.
All right, cool. We're 1 hour in for All Devs 32, so we'll end the call now. It was great to have you all, and we'll see each other on All Devs 33 in 2 weeks. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day. And for those that who go to DEF CON, looking forward to seeing you all, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.